You think you spot fake news by checking fact-check sites? Wrong. Real fake news uses patterns you can learn to detect in 60 seconds. And here's the part nobody talks about. Once you see these patterns, you can't unsee them. They're everywhere. Today we break the 5 most common ones, show you the test for each, and at the end, I'll show you what happens when someone uses all of them at once. This isn't about calling out specific stories or picking political sides. It's about spotting the structure. If a story doesn't follow these patterns, it's probably real. If it does follow them, you're about to know exactly what's happening to you. And once you run the checklist I'm giving you, you'll never fall for it again. Pattern 1. Single source plus massive emotion. Here's how you recognize it instantly. The setup is always the same. One anonymous source. Emotional language cranked to maximum. Sources say, insider claims, you won't believe this. Notice the pattern? No names, no documents, just fear or outrage pumped directly into your brain. Why does this work so well? Because it bypasses verification and hits your feelings first, before your logical brain catches up. Your amygdala fires, you're angry or scared, and by the time you think to ask, wait, who said this? You've already shared it. That's the goal. Emotion spreads faster than facts. Here's your test for pattern 1. Can you find the original document or 2 independent named sources confirming this? Not sources familiar with, not people close to, named sources. No? That's pattern 1. Let me give you an example. Secret memo proves the government is doing X. Sounds huge, right? Where is the memo? Can you read it? Can anyone verify it exists? If they can't show it, they're using pattern 1 to manipulate you. Now here's the twist. Sometimes they'll add one real fact to make it feel credible. Official documents show X, and X is true. But then they'll say, and sources say this also means Y and Z, where Y and Z are completely unverified. They're mixing one anchored fact with 2 emotional rumors. That's advanced pattern 1. Watch for it. Pattern 2. Misattributed visuals. This one is brutal because your brain is hardwired to trust what you see. The pattern is a perfect clip or video that's too convenient. No timestamp, no context, no source information, just raw emotion. Explosions, crowds, violence, fear. Why does this work? Because your brain trusts video more than text. We evolved that way. Seeing is believing. Except now, in 2026, seeing means nothing without verification. Here's your test for pattern 2. Reverse image search. Does the footage match the claim's date and location? No? That's pattern 2. YouTube explicitly flags this category as misinformation. Old footage presented as current events. Let me give you an example. Breaking riot footage from City X today. You see chaos, you feel fear, you share it. But if you reverse search that clip, you find out it was posted 3 years ago from another country. Pattern 2 just made you spread misinformation. And it worked because you didn't run the test. Here's your test. Can you think of option C? Can you imagine a compromise? Yes? Then they're using pattern 3 to box you in. Example, support this policy or you're a traitor. Where's the middle ground? Where's I support part of it but not all? If there's no third option allowed, if they're saying you're either good or evil, they're using pattern 3 to eliminate your ability to think critically. The reason this works so well now is because social media rewards it. Algorithms push conflict. Nuance doesn't get clicks. Rage does. That's why you need to spot it. Pattern 4. Card stacking. Selective facts. This is the sneakiest one because the facts are real. They're not lying. They're just hiding the 3 bigger facts that change everything. The pattern is true facts, but leaving out context, counter-evidence, or the full picture. Why does this work? Because you think, I checked this, the facts are real, and they are. But you're missing the forest because they only showed you 3 trees. Here's your test for pattern 4. What's the counter-evidence? Is there no mention of the other side? That's pattern 4. Example, crime is up 500% in this city. Sounds terrifying. You look it up, it's true. But here's what they left out. The baseline year was an all-time historical low. The population doubled. Reporting standards changed, and the current rate is still below the 20-year average. Pattern 4 just made you believe there's a crisis when there isn't. The facts were real. The framing was a lie. Here's how to protect yourself. Whenever you see a stat that sounds extreme, ask 3 questions. What's the baseline? What's the trend over time? What's the comparison to similar places? If the story doesn't answer all 3, they're card stacking. Pattern 5. No falsifiability. Claims that can't be proven wrong. This is the conspiracy theory pattern. The setup? It's a cover-up. They control everything. You'll never see the proof because they destroyed it. Why does this work? Because it can never be challenged. It's designed to be unfalsifiable. And once you believe something unfalsifiable, you're stuck forever. Here's your test for pattern 5. What evidence would disprove this claim? If the answer is none, if every piece of counter-evidence gets dismissed as part of the cover-up, that's pattern 5. Example, a secret group controls all governments. How do you test that? You can't. If they're in power, it proves the conspiracy. If they're not in power, it's because they're hiding. Heads they win, tails they win. That's pattern 5. The dangerous part is it feels smart. It feels like you're seeing through the lies, but you're actually trapped in a thought loop that can't be escaped with evidence. Now here's the big one. What happens when someone uses all 5 patterns at once? Single anonymous source, emotional video with no context, false dilemma framing, selective facts, and an unfalsifiable claim. That's not news, that's a weapon. And it works because each pattern reinforces the others. Next time you see a story, run this 5-point checklist. Pattern 1, single source. Pattern 2, verified visual. Pattern 3, false dilemma. Pattern 4, counter evidence mentioned. Pattern 5, falsifiable claim. If it fails even one test, treat it as unverified until you get better sources. Comment your number 1 pattern you see most often. Subscribe for the rules of power, not the headlines. We don't chase clicks, we chase clarity.